Hi, welcome back to another episode of Project Stargate Fringe Research. I am your host, Mark Brunner.
Co-host Cailian Bice-Bey.
And I'm co-host, research and contributing co-host Michael Thompson.
Thank you, sir. You guys, it's good to have you guys back. We've been having some fascinating conversations about everything from dragons to you name it. I mean, the state of MUFON. I just wanted to get this stuff out there. Michael and Cailian, you guys are the dragon experts. Tell me everything y'all know about the history of dragons and why this is important for today's research into fringe topics.
Ooh, that's a big one. Well, I know
I'll let him go first.
Well, dragons have been in every culture that I know, but no one knows where it originated from. Some say it started in Greece, which I doubt it. It could have started in Norse mythology, which some say Norse mythology is much older. But there's been saying that the typical dragon is four-legged, breathes fire, but it can also be two-legged, big wings. Even though it's a wyvern, it's still technically a dragon. But
so let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah, dragonoid.
So there's different types of dragons. What you're saying,
yes.
There's kinds that actually have wings and fly around. There's kinds that don't. That have four-legged or four-limbed entities or creatures, rather not. Michael, are you familiar with what? Are you familiar with it? Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, like wyvern, weavern, however you want to say it. Generally, drakes, like that,
Drakes.
wormlings, and things of that nature.
Eastern dragons, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, Eastern dragon, immortal nope noodles, you know. But yeah, I mean, generally, if you have, your Anglo-Saxons, European style dragons are, four-legged, big wings, long necks and whatnot. Then you have Scandinavian dragons can kind of be argued that they're like wyverns, weaverns, however you want to say that. They're two-legged, like a Smaug.
Yes.
In the Lord of the Rings films, but in the books, he's represented as a four-legged dragon. But, and Smaug was a pretty big beastie, but he's not anything in comparison to Alcaganalon that once he was slew.
Are you talking about Lord of the Rings?
Misty Mountain.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you I was like, well, yes, I love Lord of the Rings.
The moment you said that name, I'm like, oh, I know who you're talking about.
Destination of the
Alcaganalon the Black. And once he died, he apparently formed his spine is basically the biggest mountain range in Middle Earth.
Dang.
Supposedly.
Yep.
So.
That must be a big dragon, bro.
Oh, he's a big boy. He's a chomp.
He's a big boy.
And only the first can control him.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched Return of the King yet, guys. I bought the Blu-ray collection last year.
The extended collection?
No, I didn't get the extended collection. Listen, there's a reason. It's not. I'm going to watch those at some point, but I wanted to see the original cut of all 6 films. I started with The Hobbit. I didn't want The Hobbit to end. My wife sat through 2 of The Hobbits, and she don't usually like that stuff, but like I didn't want it to end. I was like, I cried at the end of one of them. I'm not going to lie about it. It produced an emotional response in me. But when we got to through the first Lord of the Rings, and actually, no, I haven't seen the last 2.
Oh no.
I think it's the last 2 I haven't seen.
Oh no.
Oh.
We have to fix that.
Yeah, I've got them. They're sitting in my living room. I just haven't had a chance to buy them. But that's where Smaug is supposed to be one of the big dragons.
One.
Mhm.
He's
One of them. He's like one of the last fire drakes from the north.
Fire drakes,
Yeah.
but he's considerably tiny of a fire drake, actually.
Man.
Yeah, like I was saying, like Smaug would be this big, you know.
And the other dragons are bigger.
Alkaganalan is like the size of my hand.
Yeah.
Hey, is your you do know your camera's turned off, don't you? Right?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, I see him just fine.
Should
No, I'm talking to Micheal.
Hmm?
Yeah, your camera's off.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
I see him just fine.
Hold on here.
That's weird because I don't see him.
Huh.
I see my MT on here. That's weird. Oh well. We had this situation come up on another podcast where like you could see him on video when on the recording itself, but no, I couldn't see him. It's just weird.
That's weird.
I don't know. Maybe it's electronic interference. But anyway, big dragons and walking dragons. I didn't mean to get us off path. I got excited when you said smog. So,
and there's also Native American dragons too.
I did not know that.
Yes, they do exist. Every culture has a dragon.
Wow. Are they the bipedal dragons?
Let me double check on that. I actually have research on that.
I wonder if they have anything to do with the ant people.
Well, they didn't necessarily call it a dragon, but once we came over and did it, it's basically, they call it the Thunderbird. One of them was the Thunderbird. One of them's known as the giant bird Piasa, if I'm saying it right. Yes. Yes.
Would you repeat that one more time?
Myasa? Piasa.
Oh, I thought you said Myasa. I was like, that's what I thought you said. That's what I thought you said.
No. But it's one of the dragons there. It has strong similarities with the Japanese dragon. So you would say it's another Eastern type dragon, but has wings.
That's pretty cool. Because there does seem to be dragons in every culture, almost every culture. Even going, like I said earlier, even going back to a lot of these different types of scriptures, ancient scriptures of different faiths. A lot of these talk about stuff like that. They talk about the flood too. Yes. There's all these commonalities. There's a historical account of things that we're seeing. Yeah, that we're finding archaeological evidence of that happened. And we have been for some time. But at any rate, dragons are something that's always fascinated me. Now, the question is, I've also heard some speculation. Now, this is speculation and only speculation, but going into the Old Testament times, during the whole Adam and Eve thing, I've heard some people speculate that the serpent that approached, and the intelligent serpent that approached them during that whole debacle, it may have been one of these bipedal dragons, or these draconian, whatever you want to call them. I've heard Kathleen Martin talk about these, what they call the draconians. I've heard her talk about those. Do you think that these beings could have influenced different parts of history, or they could have been used by a higher intelligence to influence certain parts of history? What do y'all think? I'll start with you, Micheal.
I think so, because if you look into like Sumerian mythology and their history and even their myth, Anunnaki, even though they're represented as supposedly humanoid or whatever, but in basic Sumerian translation, this was Zechariah Sitchin basically pointed this out, that the Anunnaki were reptilian entities.
Really?
Yeah, they were reptilian entities. So when they came here, and park the moon where it is. They came down here, and basically you had Homo erectus and things like that, but they were having the problems and everything because a bunch of them had come from Nibiru and all this other stuff to collect gold for their atmosphere. And when they got here and they started, playing with the genetics of Homo erectus, all of their people were basically, all the gods were reptiles, so to speak, and they were all reptilian individuals. So it's basically the whole Garden of Eden. If you go and you look at, Gnostic texts or any of the apocryphal texts, like the Book of Enoch, it states that, there were people outside of what was Eden, and those residential areas outside of what Eden was, because I'm guessing Eden was probably the ground zero for the prototypical Homo sapien through Adam and Eve, I would guess.
Yes. That's what that, as far as Christian philosophy goes, most philosophers would agree with that. I think that that's what I personally believe, but to each their own,
Yeah. But that fruit from that tree that they were told not to eat, because basically being engineered as a slave species for the Anunnaki, eating that fruit would give them the knowledge of the gods, basically, good and evil, right and wrong.
Right.
The ability to realize what's being done to them isn't cool. Yeah. So they ate that and became what they are. So yeah, it's probably a offshoot or enemy group to the Anunnaki themselves, because supposedly they had a bunch of them. Supposedly like the Apunians or something like that I think is what they're called. But the Anunnaki, and they had some Alpha Draconian entities that were not cool with them coming to Earth and stuff like that and messing with humans. So yeah, it's very possible that the serpent was an alternative race of reptilian or draconian species.
That's very
there's
interesting.
Other texts. Yeah. But then there's other texts too, like I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Talmud.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, in the Talmud, it details an entity called Lilith.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
I've heard of Lilith.
You beat me to it.
I'm very familiar with Lilith.
And Lilith, being Adam's first wife, she says she's not going to, be subservient to him or God. So God kicks her out, and the angels that are set to guard the gates to the Garden of Eden, Lilith made her own garden outside of Eden, and she lacked one final fruit, which was from that tree. So on her way back into the Garden of Eden, the angel guarding the gates taught her how to hide herself from God. So she became a serpent and went in, and as soon as she goes to get this fruit, this is going to sound stereotypical and sexist as shit, but this woman sees another woman messing with her man. Oh no. That bitch going to eat that fruit, So fuck them both, Pardon my language. If you want to edit that out, I can, or do you need to edit it out?
That's all right. I'll edit. It's all good.
Okay.
Michael, you beat me to it. You beat me to it.
Screw them both. Yeah. So basically, Lilith was.
I accidentally unleashed the F-bomb in a previous episodes, and I think we're all entitled to one. I guess. Yeah.
As long as it's not, just beep,
Yeah.
But,
that'd be funny if we could edit it out with like animal noises. Or meow.
I'm gonna see that.
Or just every time someone cusses, it's like, ah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael. You're doing.
But yeah, I mean, that the point of view you had is right, and like I said, in the Talmud it details that as well. But yeah, go ahead, Cailian. Or Cailian?
Yeah, Cailian.
Cailian. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
You beat me to it, Michael.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Yes, Lilith is actually pretty much the best thing I could think of. We could say Lucifer, the fallen angel who turned himself one, was the first dragon that basically did that. There's also other texts of dragonoided people. I just can't think of what those people are called. It's known in Greece mostly.
I know there were the pre-Adamites.
Yeah, the pre-Adamites is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
That basically built a lot of armor for the gods. Like they made everything for the gods. They even made most of the iconic weapons for the Greek gods.
This sounds like a plot point from Warhammer 40K, man. This sounds cool.
Yeah, basically it is. 40K Warhammer took a lot of inspiration from a lot of religions.
I can tell.
Yeah.
That's the only people I could think of on top of my head. To me, doing that, they were doing that. It could be in jealousy, mostly, that I could think of, because we have one thing most people don't have: freedom, or they were scared of something of us that we have.
I have an idea to add to what you're saying, Cailian, if you don't mind. I'd like to add something to both what you're both saying really quick, and then I'll let you continue. So, in the 5th book of the Old chapter of Genesis in the Old Testament, it talks about the days of Noah. I want to focus in on that time period with you guys for just a moment, if I will. I see some similarities on what's going on, what transpired back in there, because I do believe that this is an historical account. This isn't just alleged. I believe that this stuff really happened, and because like I said, we have archaeological evidence here all over the place to support this. So now that I got that out in the open. So I believe that we had these beings called that said that the sons of God came before God himself, and they lusted after the daughters of men, and they said that they wanted to take them as wives and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, whoever the sons of God, it didn't really make clear who the sons of God are, but we have some clues as to who they may be. In the New Testament, I'm gonna have to get these details because I don't know exactly where it was, because I heard somebody read this to me a few years ago, and I thought it was just kind of interesting. But it made another reference to the sons of God, and it said, and Satan was amongst them. So maybe that these were some sort of angels or something like that. But anyway, the offspring, one of the, according to some theologians and philosophers, that these sons of God were actually angels, and somehow they did some kind of genetic experiment on mankind. And I think that what's going on today with this alien abduction, we look at what happens during the abduction. Well, very invasive and torturous type medical experiments. People are often seeing what looks like a half human, half something else. But what if they're trying to recreate or rehash what happened in the book of Genesis? I'd like to get both of your opinions on that, and I'll start with you, Cailian.
Well, that's interesting. If they're trying to do what happened back in Genesis, tried to bring back...
Or in other words, a new type of Nephilim. Are they trying to create a new Nephilim? Go.
That is dangerous. A new type of Nephilim.
Yeah.
It took a lot of us to kill and wipe them out. It took a long time to wipe those out. It took after David's time, not even after David's time, after they killed them all, there were still some of them left. It will be dangerous because they are supposedly 20 times stronger than a normal human. They're taller, smarter, and supposed to be like that of their angel or higher powerful entity parent, and supposedly ancient magic and forbidden magic. So that would be, if this is true, that is dangerous. Very dangerous.
Definitely, and also the sons of God could there so a lot of the references to other beings they don't not necessarily angels. They could also be something kind of in the middle, like ECs or another type of being that I've heard whisperings about over the years. That's not really AT or angel. There's something completely different. These beings could be a host of different types of things. They could be. I think that in creation, thousands of years ago or millions of years ago, whatever it was, I think that a wide variety of different types of beings were created in this physical that can operate in and out of this physical matrix we call reality. That's what I believe. But Michael, I want to hear your take on all this. Go ahead.
What you were talking about just there before I get into that sounds a lot like being six, is what that is. Basically, what being six is an entity or entities that are a collection and manifestation of multiple levels, layers of consciousness given form in one shape or multiple shapes. There's a guy, I can't remember exactly who it was that talked a lot about him or that, but if it pops into my head, I'll get into it. But talking about the recreation of the Nephilim, well, like he says, I believe it would probably be very dangerous as well. Because hell, I mean, even after humanity, as it were, trying to wipe them out as a whole, the flood that was basically intended to wipe them out didn't wipe them out.
Not entirely, because a quarter of them, another quarter of Son of God fell.
But I mean, technically, if you think about it, generally all of Homo sapiens as a whole collectively has different seeds of different genetics from different species that exist outside of Earth, which is why we're all different, but at the same time, trying to recreate something like that's probably something that's very, very heavily guarded and kept super secret. That sounds like a bunch of stuff like what they would be doing at the Dulce bases in New Mexico. Because the bases in New Mexico at Dulce especially seem to be the wonderland or grand mecca for all things hybridization.
If what we hear about Dulce is true, I think you're absolutely right, Michael. I think that this may be one of the venues that they're doing this stuff, because I think that I'm not sure how much to believe of. What's that guy's name that allegedly got in a firefight down there? I can't remember his name. I have a brain fart off the top of my head. The guy that back in the 90s.
Yeah.
He was like an engineer. His name escapes me. It'll come back to one of us here in a minute. But I think there is some truth to Dulce. I definitely believe there's something going on. The evidence is almost the circumstantial evidence that to support it is overwhelming. We just don't have the smoking gun of catching evidence of a helicopter going into the top of that mesa. I just find that interesting that you mentioned Dulce, because I do believe that could be a venue, one of the venues where some of these sick experiments are taking place.
Yeah, not to mention that there's a lot of what they're using to make as vessels or containers for AI. For artificially intelligent entities and stuff like that. They're a lot of that out of their They're calling it like techno organics or something like that, and basically their robotics division and stuff like that is basically working on giving bodies to artificially intelligent beings. But like I said, at the same time, with techno organics, you're basically making cyborgs and things
So
like that. So
kind of like
maybe with the advent, basically like the advent with how they're pushing so hard for AI, is they're basically trying to make a controllable genetic mold for something that they can put the consciousness of these things in. They grow them in a vat, and then they slap their consciousness into something that they can actually control. Because basically, if you believe anything that happened with the Nephilim and their like, they were cool at first, but then they turned into, massively violent, marauding, cannibalistic jackoffs.
Yep.
I mean, when you're eating your children as soon as they pop out of the womb, like, oh, what's going on, guys? You kind of see a problem,
Yeah. Wow. That's creepy, man.
Yeah, the giant.
I can't imagine that.
The Nephilim was another thing, and then the Giants were another thing, and I'm like, if they're trying to recreate that, that's a big problem.
A lot of people say the Nephilim and the Giant were the Giants.
They were.
Okay, I was just making sure that we were on the same page with that, because
the angels, the angels, quote unquote, that came down from heaven when they say, hey, these human chicks are digging that unibrow, baby, so they got a hold of it, and the offspring were called the Nephilim, and then they became the Giants and stuff like that. But it depends really, again, on where the information and tale is coming from. Like in the Gnostic texts, so like I said, are apocryphal, so they were in the Old Testament, but the new guys were like, no, let's cut that out.
I call bull on that.
And
if it's in the Bible and the Bible mentions it, it's canon.
Yeah. So because originally there used to be 96 books in the Bible, now there's 62.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of debate about the Book of Enoch. A lot of people think the Book of Enoch was originally part of the Old Testament, and I think it's possible. But I honestly, I'll admit to you guys, I've not read the Book of Enoch. I'm going to. It's on my to-do list. My guy used to be my pastor years ago. He actually married me and my wife. He recommended it. He says it was fascinating. He said it was you should read it.
The Book of Enoch details very heavily that Jesus was a reptilian.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh well, Mary is a virgin birth. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So how did she get pregnant? Well, it wasn't Joseph who slept with her, because if the two of them were married, they were getting married at a time where both families watched them consummate their vows on the wedding day,
So there's no way.
So she was pregnant, but no one slept with me. Virgin births, whatever. But there are specific types of reptiles in existence that can impregnate themselves and switch genders. And people I don't think the big question is whether or not God slept with Mary or impregnated her or whatever. I think the bigger question is, what kind of reptile was Mary?
I've never heard that before. That's pretty interesting. I've heard some similar ideas, but I wonder if that's what the skinwalker might be. These beings like the skinwalker, they could be, maybe the skinwalker is one of these could be one of these shape shifting beings, kind of like what you just described.
Well, I think that the skinwalkers these days are kind of being used as like a catch-all term for a lot of things.
An umbrella term.
Yeah, like if you talk to like a Navajo, for example, about skinwalkers, one of my employees is full blown Navajo. He's the next in line in his family to be a shaman.
Oh wow.
You know,
Interesting.
and his brother, he doesn't. You mentioned the Ninkalushi around him, and he.
No, you never.
No. Shut up, dude. Like his brother supposedly has the telltale whatever that he could become a skinwalker if he were to kill somebody or whatever. But
I would
skinwalkers,
love to talk to this guy. God, I'd love to talk to this guy.
he won't talk about it. He won't talk about it.
Yeah, I figured he wouldn't.
He will not talk about it.
They will not talk about it because it's very dangerous. Even Skinwalker, the Skinwalker path is very
even mentioning the Skinwalker gives them power.
Yeah.
You know,
Skinwalkers is, how do I describe it?
Aren't they supposed to be like somebody who practiced really, really dark magic and did some really fucked up things to their family to become one, right?
Think of a Wendigo, but worse.
Yeah.
100 times worse.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll consume the flesh of their brother. They practice darker magics than what is intended.
Yeah.
And they're generally just they carry a seed of evil that it will continue to grow, but it will never stop.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
But
they can be killed though, right?
That's a skinwalker.
They can.
They jump bodies though.
Yeah, that's you can kill their original body, but they know how to jump to body to body. So the true way to kill it has been lost. It's very confusing how to truly kill one. Wow. Some say it was silver, but it's not really true.
And two, they're also very similar in a lot of ways to Eastern European vampires. Or Vukodloks and Vrikoloks, that they generally tend to just fuck with their family as opposed to everybody.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you could compare to the old European vampire legends. For example, the Men in Black, very similar. They will not come in your house unless you invite them. There's some psychic phenomenon that's sometimes associated with the Men in Black encounters, just like there is with vampires, according to legend. There's some sort of psychic trance or psychic transfer of information that's been reported with these Men in Black sightings. Maybe a lot of these things were confused as vampires back in the day. Could that be?
Yeah.
Or there could be vampires. There could have been real vampires.
I like the fact you said Vodalok, which is basically pretty accurate because that's the werewolf and vampire version.
Yeah, like if you were a witch or a werewolf when you died, you became a Vrikolok or a Vukodlok or a Vrikolichi or, I mean, hell.
That's
think of it this way: you want to keep a vampire away from you? Put a bowl of poop in front of its grave. It'll eat it and leave you alone.
Yeah. Or gold.
You really want to stick it to them? Get 1,000 grains of rice and throw them all but one at it. And it'll continue to stop everything that it's doing, and it will count every single one of those fucking grains. And it will not stop until it gets the final one that was supposed to have been thrown at it. Wow. Until the sun comes up, and then it'll run and get back in its grave.
Yep.
Or, you can do the classic. Jiangxi are kind of like that, too. Jiangxi and Wu Shin, I think is what they're, or Kyuketsuki in Japan are what they're called.
And then there's the vampire with the Y, which are those are flesh eaters.
This is a good place for us to stop and take a quick break. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's continue this conversation. I'm fascinated by all this. Let's take a short break. You're listening to Project Stargate Fringe Research with my co-hosts Micheal Thompson and Cailian Bice-Bey, and we'll be right back in just a moment and continue this fascinating conversation. All right, welcome back to Project Stargate Fringe Research. I'm here with my co-hosts Micheal and Cailian. Welcome back, gentlemen. During the break, we were talking about some of our favorite, just trivial stuff. I am quite the David Lynch fan, but I've never seen Mulholland Drive. That's the only movie of his I have never seen. Cailian, have you seen any of? any of David Lynch's stuff? Have you
I
seen
have.
Twin Peaks?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen Twin Peaks: The Return, which is
I have
also
not
called Season
seen-
3?
Wait. There's another one?
There's Twin Peaks: The Season 3, or it's called The Return also. It is the Season 3 that takes place 25 years later in the show.
There was the movie Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, you got to watch the movie. The movie connects everything together. Like, literally, it connects everything together in a brilliant way.
I'm guessing.
Good. So you've seen the movie. You've seen the first 2 seasons, I'm assuming, correct?
I didn't know there were seasons. I just saw the movie.
Oh, the movie's only... It's just a movie, dude. You need to watch the entire series.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know.
The movie's like a Cliff Notes.
It is. But it also ties everything together, even the season 3 that hadn't been made yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go watch that now.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. David Lynch, he walks the line when his filmmaking is not like anybody else's I've ever seen. Yeah. He walks the line between reality and sometimes dark fantasy with a sense of humor involved with it. He has a very unique sense of humor. The characters are unforgettable. Mm-hmm. I love his movies. I like The Lost Highway is another great one. We were just talking about that on the break. The Lost Highway is an unbelievable movie. I've watched the movie about 4 times, and I still am trying to understand what's going on with the woman in the movie. Is she switching realities? What's going on here? I'll be watching that movie another 1 or 2 times just to understand what's going on. I find myself doing that with David Lynch. I've watched Twin Peaks, the entire series, about 6 times. And each time I watch the show, I pick up new shit that I didn't learn in the previous watch there.
That's usually what happens. You're like, oh.
Yeah. But anyway, Twin Peaks, great show. I own all of them. I own the entire series on Blu-ray, including the film. I've got the new release of the film. Don't let your grandma watch it or your little kids watch it because it's an adult show. But,
well, I don't have kids yet, and my parent. Well, I know my mom doesn't like scary movies, so no.
It's not really scary. I mean, there's paranormal elements in Twin Peaks. It starts out as a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Who
killed Laura Palmer?
Yeah, who killed Laura Palmer? She was like the homecoming queen. And this FBI agent, played by Kyle MacLachlan, shows up in Twin Peaks. And he starts investigating the murder. And as he's investigating this murder, not only does he discover a bunch of dirty laundry of the people who live in the town, but things start getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And you get all this parapsychological phenomenon going on, like him having clairvoyant dreams about another dimension and the murder victim, and a character, a 10-foot tall character named they call the Fireman. It's just really, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder as you watch.
It's like a Silent Hill-esque type of series.
Just a little bit,
but more in depth.
It's not like anything you've seen. Micheal, is he off on that, or it's just different?
Yeah, it's just different. Like, you're not wrong in what you're saying, but yeah, it's just different. Like, just throw all of your preconceptions out the window, turn your brain off, and leave it off. You know?
Like in the first couple of
series,
you want to start with season 1, which is like 8 episodes, I think, and you want to watch the first season. Season 1 came out in 1990.
Oh wow!
Watch season 1, and then watch season 2, which is a lot longer. It's about 18 episodes, and then watch the movie, and then watch Twin Peaks: The Return. People hail episode 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return, specifically episode 8, as David Lynch's best film ever made. Like they say that that's his bona fide masterpiece.
Well, David Lynch is a great director, and I still want him to direct Cthulhu. I think he could do it.
Yeah, he probably could.
Cthulhu's tough.
But anyway,
Speaking of Cthulhu, I'll let you finish what you're saying first.
Go ahead, Michael.
Have you guys been watching Netflix at all? There was a show that came out called Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities.
I heard about that. Is that in the Cthulhu universe?
There's a couple of episodes that are direct adaptations of Lovecraft, like Dreams in the Witch House and Pickman's Model. But the rest of the other stories have very, very, very distinct reference to Cthulhu in a lot of ways. So the second episode is called The Graveyard Rats. And underneath this grave, it's about a guy who's robbing graves and selling jewelry and stuff like that. But he starts noticing that a lot of the bodies are getting torn into by rats, So he goes to a general or something dies, and he's sent to the grave with this commissioned sword, which is inlaid with gold and diamond and mother of pearl handle and all this crap. So he goes to rob this guy's grave, and he sees it getting drug into a tunnel. So he's super claustrophobic or whatever, and he goes after the body, only to encounter a gigantic albino rat creature that is eating the bodies. And he goes further in, running away from it, and he comes across a ritual with probably a 15 to 20 foot tall Cthulhu statue. There's the overseer of the ritual's corpse or whatever on one side, and it's got a really elaborate, Cthulhu Dagon-ish looking necklace and stuff like that. There's a Necronomicon on the ground and all this other stuff, and then a couple of other ones directly poke at Cthulhu, or in passing paintings and things like that of Cthulhu and various other mythos entities. It's pretty neat. But if Del Toro has his way, hey puppy, if Del Toro has his way after winning Best Director with The Shape of Water, which was a fantastic fucking movie. I don't know if you've seen it or not. But if Del Toro has his way, he says that he will have At the Mountains of Madness made within the next 5 years.
What?
Yeah, he's been trying really hard to get At the Mountains of Madness made. But it was supposed to be made around the time that Prometheus came out. But because there's a lot of similarities in the story between the two, like the genesis of humanity and things like that.
That's gonna be
but yeah, he's been trying very hard to get At the Mountains of Madness made, and Universal is still very interested in making it, but at the same time, they don't know if they can hand him $170 million to make a movie.
Yeah, why not? That's nothing.
Have you heard of it, Mark?
No.
When you have the chance to read it, it is intense. It's one of those ones that will blow your mind just a little bit.
I will. I will definitely check that out. I want to get back to a little bit back to what we were talking about earlier before the break. So there in the Uinta Basin where Skinwalker Ranch is, now that area is a big Mormon community. It's been a big Mormon community since they settled there. I don't know what the time frame that they actually got there to settle, but it's a big Native American area, and it's also a big Mormon community. And I find that interesting, and I want you to make a side note of that. So anyways, a lot of places, I noticed when a connection over the years with frequent UFO activity and big Mormon communities. I don't know what the connection is, but there was a Mormon temple built. I heard this testimony this guy gave, where they were building a Mormon temple, and in the basement, a bunch of people were running out of the basement screaming because they saw what looked like reptilian-looking dudes walking around in the basement. Are these things coming from underground? Could they be? Because a lot of testimonies of people who have cited the reptilian beings, whatever or whoever they are, a lot of people have said that they come from underground, and they would witness coming from, or they could only be coming from underground. I want to get your thoughts on that, Michael. Let's start with you.
Yeah. Because again, going back to underground entities and things like that, reptilians in the lore of ufology and things like that are not just centered on being a galactic or stellar or interstellar race. There's also the idea that there are native entities that are reptilian on Earth. Like I was mentioning earlier before we started recording about the guy that in Canada at the Natural History Museum there, when he was talking about, Homo saurius, and that, primates were not the only thing to branch off on the evolution into humans as we did. So, of course, with the Ice Age and things like that, mammals, of course, would, survive that with fur and things like that. Well, being reptilian, of course, they went underground, and because they're finding, there's a lot of archaeological sites, especially out west and in more arid areas, where they're finding, dinosaur skeletons and things like that, but they're also finding dinosaurs or skeletons in these areas that are also not limited to being, like say a velociraptor, for example. What if you have a 6-foot velociraptor, but it doesn't have a tail? It has the, the digitigrade legs, but it's got regular arms. It has its head. Its back is straight and has a smaller head, but it has the 4 fingers and opposable thumbs.
Humanoid.
Yeah, it's anthropomorphic, humanoid or anthropomorphic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very likely, because a lot of the scientists that came over during Operation Paperclip, when they brought all of the German scientists over from Nazi Germany to help, the U.S. with their space program and stuff like that, Werner von Braun stated very clearly that, yeah, we had a lot of help from not only friends from outside the planet, but we also had help from people, from entities that are very much earthbound, but they're not human. And a lot of the stuff that they were talking about, that like the entire Vril Society is based around reptilian magic.
I know specifically reptilian. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I just learned something new.
Yeah, so a lot of their technology and everything came from supposedly a supposed reptilian source. So, wow. I mean, it's very likely that they witnessed reptilian entities coming from where they were coming. But then at the same time too, with a lot of where people are seeing reptilian entities and whatnot, if you were to do an overlay in the United States as a whole of per capita, like missing people, the diagram of where all these people are also like 95% matches where there are underground caverns that have or have not yet been mapped in the United States.
That's fascinating. I wonder if David Pilates has looked into that. Do you know?
I don't know. That's the missing 411 guy, right?
Yeah,
that's the 411 guy, right?
Yeah, that's David Pilates. Yeah. I wonder if he's looked into that because that you made a good point. I'm sure he is. I know that there's a lot of things he's discovered. Where these cluster spots are, like the granite. There's a lot of times there's a lot of granite. There's water nearby, and a lot of the places are like mountainous. So God only knows there could be underground. I'm sure there's truth to what you just said, Michael. A good point. There could be these underground caverns. These people could be disappearing underground. What if they're disappearing into underground and never to be seen again? Because the circumstances behind these disappearances are so bizarre. It makes sense to me what you just said. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go continue.
Yeah, and they're generally these people that are disappearing and stuff like that. Even some of the people that there's been a lot of people that have been missing for some odd years, and they have come back and shown back up. Some of them have related stories where they were underground, and they were basically being used as some type of slave force or whatever. And a lot of the people that were taken down there with them were being used as a food source.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, and a lot of the people that, have been coming back with stories like that are basically being told to shut up, or we're going to kill you. We're not going to kill you, but we're going to make you wish that, you had never said anything,
If there's any of these beings listening to this program, Cailian and Michael and I, we don't taste good. We taste nasty. You'll get a bad tummy.
I'm diabetic.
You'll get a bad tummy.
No sugar.
Right.
Yeah. And Cailian, look. This guy does the banana splits like you wouldn't believe. You don't want this guy. There's not much meat on his bones. And me, I'm just hungry.
And if the mantis that ate my Cinnabons is watching, if the mantid that ate my Cinnabons is watching,
you've got to go into that story. The mantis dude. If you're listening, F off, sir.
Yeah, you owe me $6.12, dude. Or you can bring me some Cinnabon.
They think they're so damn intelligent that they think we're stupid, and they are more intelligent than we are, from what I understand.
Like Cailian, this happened a couple of months ago.
Oh no!
I was having one of those dreams where you're still asleep, but you're awake at the same time, kind of like a waking lucid dream,
Yeah.
And my security light on my porch was on. And normally, it doesn't come on unless there's somebody out there, because dog, cats, or squirrels and things like that normally don't set it off,
Gerbils.
So I go and I open my door and I look out on my porch, and there's this 9-foot tall
squirrel
praying mantis looking thing
What?
that's wearing like red and purple robes, and it turns around and it looks at me, and I'm like, slam the door and I lock it, and I run into my bedroom and I hide behind the rack and everything that I have up for my clothes and shit. Pardon. But after a few minutes, I get the idea in my head that everything's okay, So I walk back into my living area, and it's standing inside my home. And I get the feeling in my head that I am safe. I mean no harm to you. Please sit down. So I sit in my chair, and I sat in my chair. I funked out, It's probably about 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. And when I wake up, and I wake up, and I'm missing my shirt, or my shirt is off, and I'm holding my robes in my lap, and I am starving, just starving. And it dawns on me, and I'm like, hey, I've still got Cinnabons from dinner last night,
So you thought.
And I know I didn't eat them because, they're cinnamon sugar. You could taste that for a while after you eat them,
Oh, yeah.
And I go to get them, and they're gone. I know I didn't eat them because I'm starving, you know. So I go to get them, and they're gone. And I'm like, that praying mantis ate my Cinnabons.
You're like,
Damn. Something happened. Either it ate it or it confiscated them. Was the box still there?
Yeah.
You didn't even take the box.
For science. Yeah, the bag is still here.
It ate it for science. It ate it because, these entities, they lie. They lie all the time. But a lot of these entities lie. Like
they lie or they do.
Oh, we're not going to hurt you. Oh, next thing you know, you're getting raped by an anal probe. You're getting poked in the eye and things shoved up your nose and things, big old needles and other apparatuses being stabbed in you. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever.
Is this their way of saying, hey, we're not going to hurt you, but we're doing experiments on you?
But
it's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt. But just sit back so we can do all this heinous stuff to you, invasive, heinous, and painful things. But it's not going to hurt.
No, not at all.
And then if you got Cinnabons laying around, they'll take those too. So you better watch your Cinnabons.
Yeah, of course.
Michael, you've had it rough, bro.
So just say next time if you see him again, I'm like, hey, dude, if you want Cinnabons, just make sure to ask me. Just ask me.
Tell him to go to Cinnabon. Tell him to abduct the Cinnabon crew.
Dimensionally, we'll go jump in the car. You can shift dimensionally so nobody sees you. We'll go to Taco Bell. We'll get a latte and some Cinnabons for you. And you just give me back my Cinnabons, bro.
And then we'll be even.
That's all I'm asking.
I've heard of weird shit like that happening.
And also tell me what the hell happened for 4.5 hours.
And why am I missing my shirt?
Yeah, well, I found my shirt eventually. But I found my shirt like the next day. But it was over on my shelf over here. But why did I run off with this mantid with my robes and whatnot?
What type of party were you having, sir?
Man, that's crazy. That is a crazy story.
Or was there a party at all? Because like even like you were saying with them doing harmful, hurtful things and stuff like that. My first encounter when I was 9, I couldn't move or anything. I felt the needles go into my arm here. I felt the needles go in here, and what they put in my eye, I felt that, but it was more uncomfortable than outright pain, And the second encounter hurt like hell because they stuck a bunch of things into my spine.
Ooh.
But my third encounter was interesting because, they collected semen in a rather direct way, which was pretty neat but interesting as hell because certain entities you wouldn't think have a cloaca, and it feels very awkward. So
awkward.
And the last time I had any real run-in with anything, I was probably 19, strapped to a table, and they took a little bit of piece out of my head here and out of my face here, and they put a thing in my arm that pops up right here every now and then, and it's been there ever since.
Dude, Michael, I just want to say, man, I believe you. As crazy as some of this shit sounds, I believe you, man. And I'm sorry if you were traumatized by any of this. I'm really sorry. This is something that happens to more people than I think most people would realize. I think it happens on a much bigger scale to people. I think they do a better job covering it up with people's memories than than others do. I think, and I think that's why some people like you, Michael, you've been conscious during some of your experiences. I've been conscious during a couple of mine that I vividly remember, but there's other times that I know something happened I know I had missing time with and without other family members and people involved.
Yeah.
And I have the physical evidence. I have some degree of physical evidence to support it. I think this happens though on a much bigger scale than most people realize. And Daryl Simpson and I were having a conversation about this about a year and a half ago, and he's one of the go-to authorities on this subject. And there are things that there's ways you can find out almost definitively within 2 weeks if you've had an abduction scenario. There's definitive ways to find out.
Yeah.
These entities, they secrete some kind of body fluid. I call it sweat, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see it with the naked eye, but if you run a black light over it, it stays on you for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see palm prints and stuff like that on people. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Oh, not to mention that the reptilian ones leave a smell that sticks around for a while, and it's not pleasant.
Which ones?
It is not pleasant. The
Who does
reptilians.
That? Oh,
the
okay.
reptilian ones. The reptilians leave behind like a pheromone or a scent that they secrete because they don't sweat or whatever, but it just comes off of them.
Right.
And the smell is very, very kind of smells like bile and sulfur.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah,
because
and it's not overpowering. It's not as overpowering as when you're present with them. Like I said, when I was 9, I had the 2 taller entities that were taller gray like entities, and there were 2 reptilian entities in the room with me as well. And smelling them is enough to make you want to retch.
Yeah, I've smelt them one time.
Say anything.
The one time that's one of the few things I remember about my conscious experience with what I think was one of the grays, or 3 of them. And I smelled something that smelled like, I remember this, I've had situations where like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and sensing a presence in the room, and I had this smell of like dank, dark, or wet cardboard and sulfur. It's just really strange combination.
Sulfur and what again, Michael?
Sulfur and bile.
Bile. That can be
like
situated with dragons a lot.
Like, you know how you can smell your vomit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, and the gray entities that you encountered, Mark, like, do you remember distinctly what more they looked like, or were they short? Were they taller?
So I went into some detail when I was interviewed on Spaced Out Radio and a couple other shows. I talked about it on the Chad Smith podcast as well, but the ones I saw when I was really little, down in South Mississippi in my grandparents' basement, were about 3.5 foot tall. They were wearing like what I can describe now. I call them druid cloaks because that's what they remind me of. Mm-hmm. They were kind of like a dark maroon colored little cloaks, and they were wearing the hoods over their head. So I can make out some of the facial features of these things. Mm-hmm. I remember they were just barely tall, about as tall as the bedpost at the end of the bed. I remember that's how I could gauge them. So they weren't very tall. Mm-hmm. I think those things are like the worker bees, I think they're biological androids.
Yeah, like Ebens.
Yeah. I think
similar to the ones that they picked up at Roswell. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that those guys, the evidence kind of points towards them being like a worker bee, like a non-intelligent, but just designed to follow orders to a T and drag your butt out of bed at the middle of the night, drag you out of your car in broad daylight to do whatever to you. And I think that's what they are.
They're basically foot soldiers. They have nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Evens, and Reptilians, if there are any, are kind of the ones watching over the grays to make sure they don't screw up.
Mm-hmm.
It always seems like the insectoid entities are usually the ones that are the big boss, the El Jefe.
There's definitely a hierarchy. Yeah. I think the tall grays are above the short gray. I think that those are the tall ones are actually fairly intelligent, at least maybe more intelligent than we are. I think the Manus guys, I think those guys seem to be based on eyewitness testimony, that those generally are the ones calling most of the shots. And then there's something above them, and only very few people know what else is involved with this. And this is where it gets a little
usually the insectoid and the Nordic style, like Pleiadian species, are usually the head honcho, higher up guys in charge of everything. But go ahead.
Some say that the higher ones, the guy we interviewed, I forgot his name, were dragons in a sense.
Yeah, like and then you have the alpha chronids and stuff like that are. And there's a lot of people that have talked about this. I think there was I think his name was Corey Good, is his name. He did like a 20 and back program with a secret space program, where he was talking about how we have our regular reptilian anthropomorphic humanoid entities, where then you also have reptilians that look like straight velociraptors. And then you have some reptilian species that are the literal spitting image of straight up dragon men, or they're 20 to 30 foot tall, literal dragon entities. But they generally don't tend to, they tend to not come down here very much. But they're like fourth and fifth density creatures.
Yeah.
Outside of what would be our third density wavelength and frequency.
The only ones that I could think of that could stay is the Eastern dragons, which in mythology they can shapeshift and be known as politicians.
Yeah. Wow. And a lot of the reptilian species use either genetically bred into them, like chameleon style.
Oh yeah.
Camouflage, or they're literally able to physically change their bone structure to match what they interact with.
Yes.
So I mean, but like with David Icke, he talks about them being extra dimensional. So like when they come into our dimension, they have like a mask, like a digital mask, like a cloaking system. The system will kind of fidget based on the frequencies and wavelengths around them, or they're full-blown gigantic lizards that are like saurian in size and everything else. So back with his idea of dragons and stuff like that, that could very well be where we got them.
Wow. This has been really fascinating, man. I don't get a chance to just have random conversations about the subjects like this. This is where I've learned actually quite a bit from you guys today. Let's take one last break, and when we come back, we'll wrap this conversation up, and talk about the end of the year and things that are there to transpire next year when we come back. You're listening to Project Stargate Fringe Research. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Project Stargate Fringe Research. We're here to finish up in our last segment here. Micheal and Cailian are with me today, and we've had a fascinating conversation about the reptilians and different things that have been impacted by these entities and what they are. Let's continue what we were talking about, but you guys were talking about this before. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. You want to go?
Yeah, sure. My thing with the reptilians is there's been saying about underground caves that we found that have full of life. So
Mhm.
it's obviously like, yeah, there's life underground. We just can't find it, or they're hiding themselves very well. And plus, there's a reference to Tartarian. If you don't know, it's a big empire supposedly that was between Russia and Asia that give you a big understanding how big it is. Saying that there were a lot of other people, there were even wolf-like creatures, human-like, but they were cannibals. So similar.
Did you say wolf-like creatures, Cailian?
Wolf-like creatures, yes.
Like Dogman or werewolf type creature?
Dogman, wolf-like creatures. They are.
Okay.
Let's just say they love their own people, but when they see someone like us, we are not friendly. We are considered food to them. So that tells me that the reptilians are similar in a way, and these wolf-like creatures are another one. I don't know if they're somewhat allies or throughout the ages, because we might have forced them down underground, but that's up more evidence that we have to find, because there's been a lot of reference like werewolf sightings, so it could be that these wolf-like creatures, humanoids, are these.
Oh, especially up north with like the, because
yes.
generally Michigan, Ohio,
Canada,
Idaho, Missouri, a lot of those places, they have tons of dogman sightings, and they're generally in, you know, lesser known, less traveled places. But at the same time, again, like I was mentioning earlier about the missing persons with the 411 and stuff like that, of the cavern systems that are in those areas have tons of cavernous regions underground. So there's really no telling. And a lot of people, they go in far enough and go, oh, there's nothing freaking here, and they just don't want to go any further, you know?
Yeah.
Or they start getting that feeling of, oh, I don't feel too good about this right now, George, you know?
Yeah. It's some of those people are like, their inner instincts like, turn back.
I think all
There's
of us have
something.
that.
Yeah.
I think all of us have. I think it's a psychic ability that we all have. I think that, yeah, definitely, man.
This is why I'm trying to learn like chakras, how to control, because maybe these creatures already have mastered a lot of stuff that we have not mastered yet, or we used to master it, but we've lost that information completely.
Yeah.
Because they said Tartarian was highly advanced to the point where we were already like owning flying machines. We've mastered steam and electric already. But for some reason, they disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing with like the Mongolians, you know.
Yes.
The Khans apparently descended from the Tartars and the Tartarians. And Genghis Khan, he wasn't Asian at all. I mean, he was a really big honking white dude.
Yeah.
You know?
There's actually a drawing of him. He had red hair and blue eyes. I'm like, that is not an Asian trait. That is more of Celtic trait.
Yeah. Oh. And the Tartarians apparently were, you know, let's throw in some eugenics terms if you want to. They were very caucanoid. They were white dudes, you know, and supposedly they too came from the Ariani and things like that, which, you know, apparently if you go into the Agarthan theories and stuff like that with underground civilizations and stuff, again, going back to Admiral Byrd with his North Pole, South Pole holes in the earth and stuff like that. Even the big hole in the South Pole that they're talking about now that just has been randomly showing up and being airbrushed out on Google Earth over the last couple of weeks.
They have a no-fly zone over it too.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, and then if you Google Earth it, you can obviously tell that the wait, you know, let's scrub that out again. You know.
Yep. And then there's Antarctica, which I have a big issue with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't go beyond it because it's so dangerous. I'm like, to the point where we have this technology that can keep us warm enough just to survive in that cold. What are they hiding? What are they hiding that they're that afraid?
What are they hiding?
Mm-hmm.
They're also talking about the possibility that we're looking at the possibility of another pole shift here in the next 50 to 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And global warming. Well, no, it's just because the planet is getting ready to flip again.
Doesn't matter.
And things are thawing out, but the more you can't hide everything.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff thawing out now in Antarctica that
they can't hide it forever.
Like I think it was here a couple where in Politico they were talking about the fact that they've apparently found ruins under the ice in Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
So
they can't hide it forever.
Nope.
Hell, there's a massive structure that they believe is a pyramid up in Alaska underground. We had Mike Ricks, special guest Mike Ricksecker from his show, the Alaskan Triangle, that's on the Travel Channel. We had him on earlier this year, and we talked about that. And it was fascinating. There's definitely something down there underground.
This could be the first civilization area. It could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Oh, did you guys see where apparently they have found a 500-mile structure under the surface of the moon?
No.
Oh yes, I heard of that.
I didn't hear about that. What,
that's really making me like, oh.
How did they discover it?
Seismograms and stuff like that. The moon was having very heavy tectonic shifts, which is impossible because the moon has no tectonic plates.
Yep.
And then so they they use their seismographs and things like that and ground penetrating radar and found a 500-mile in size structure in the core of the moon.
Wow. That's
fascinating. On top of their Goldilocks zones, where there's apparently atmosphere within pockets of craters on the moon and such. And I'm like, but there's no atmosphere on the moon. Oh, but there's atmosphere within these craters at certain depths. No.
That makes no sense. So this tells me this is like its own type of planet.
Yeah. Well, which goes into how people have always. There's been a lot of people that have talked about the fact that the moon is hollow, and it's either hollow or extremely cavernous. But the moon itself also has no core. So how can there be a 500-mile structure in the moon when the moon has no core? Well, that would explain why it has no core.
Core was gone long time ago.
So. Yeah, but apparently they've also been picking up like strange energy spikes on the moon as well. Like things are starting to turn on or whatever.
It's fascinating that we're on this conversation about the moon because I have a lady who's going to be who wants to appear as a guest on our show. Her name's Constance Briggs. She wrote a book about this, about the moon and all this stuff. And we're gonna next year. She wants to appear as a guest on our program. She's written a book about it, and her name is Constance Briggs. She's from California, and she's really cool. So that we're actually going to be talking about this in great detail in an upcoming episode next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys have Amazon Prime, right?
No.
No.
I'm not sure if our membership's active or not, but we've had it at some point.
Here. I had to reactivate it just to.
there is a documentary on there called UFO: The Greatest Story Ever Denied. It's in 3 parts. And the first part deals with, general UFO related things. And the second one is called Moon Rising. And it's like almost 2 hours of them talking about the anomalies and things like that, and straight up ex-NASA employees and how they've, they detail going in and airbrushing and altering photographs and video and stuff like that, as well as the 14 hours of video that the Apollo 11 crew filmed on the moon, showing entities and craft surrounding them while they're, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind,
Right.
And the 10 hours of dialogue that they had between them and Mission Control about being followed and all kinds of stuff. It's kind of chilling.
We have a lot of stuff that's in the works for next year. We had Dr. Melvin Morse, with us not too long ago.
Oh yes.
And he wants to do a remote viewing experiment and set it up. We got that kind of in the works, and I haven't talked to him about a time, but this is going to be like a 5 or 6 hour ordeal where we're going to have a large block of time set aside for this, and he's going to conduct the experiment if we decide to do it. But that's going to happen next year.
Yeah.
Also, another person I've been talking to over the last year or two is an UFO eyewitness from Cape Fear, North Carolina. A lot of you, a lot of this guy. He worked with Kathleen Martin. His name escapes me. He's really well known in the field. I can't remember. My brain just went brain fart. But he lives on Cape Fear, and he's had experiences like you guys wouldn't believe. They've had paranormal investigators and people from MUFON out there working with him. It's an extraordinary case. But that's something else that I'm working on, getting an actual eyewitness to a very important UFO and paranormal event. That's something else we're working on for next year. It's going to be very interesting. And the individual that I'm talking about has been on TV documentaries. I cannot for the life of me remember his name off the top of my head. Just brain fart. But the rest of this year, I think that we're going to be kind of laying it low because of the holiday season and things that we have. Kayla and I especially, we work for one of the big mega retailers in the distribution, and we're going to be slam busy for the rest of the year. And I think
especially next week.
Yeah, definitely. So this is probably going to be the last time we're going to produce an episode for this year. We might do something on New Year's Eve, depending on what's going on. We might have to do something on New Year's, so we'll see. But as of right now, this has been it's been a pretty interesting year. We've had some notable people on our show. Just had some great guests who had some great conversations, and I think that Micheal, I'm really glad that you joined us as a contributor. I'm looking forward.
You brought me on.
Yeah, man. You've done a great job. You do a great job presenting information. I appreciate it, Cailian. I'm stoked that you're with us now. Now, as far as Jake and Greg goes, Jake is going to be. He stepped down as a co-host. But he's a contributor so every once in a while, Jake will be with us next year. Greg had family events this evening, so he was able to be with us. But we got a pretty exciting year coming up next year, and between now and the first of next year, we're gonna be working on getting this content together for another year of exciting content. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay. Yeah, man, me too.
Yeah.
Same.
And again, thank you for bringing me on. You know, it was just a friend of mine randomly saw your ad and immediately thought of me. So I reached out, touch base. Here I am now. So, yeah. Again, thank you for bringing me on.
Absolutely. Yeah. But anyway, that wraps things up for today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button. It'll help us out a lot. And until next time, stay spooky. And you're listening to Project Stargate Fringe Research. This is your host, Mark Brenner, signing off.